I wiped the soil from my hands and adjusted my worn straw hat as I tended to my heirloom tomatoes. Through the old wooden fence, I heard Sophia's distinctive voice carrying across from her Mediterranean-style mansion. "Marcus, darling, I simply won't have the children spending time at that farm. What will the neighbors think?" My son's response was weaker than I'd hoped. "Mom's been farming this land for 40 years, Sophia. The kids love it here." "Love it? Look at their shoes, covered in mud. And Emma's designer dress is ruined from picking those common vegetables." I glanced at my 8-year-old granddaughter, who was happily digging for potatoes, her face glowing with joy despite her muddy dress. Next to her, 6-year-old Lucas was learning how to tell when corn was ready for harvest. "But the children are learning where food comes from," Marcus protested. "Mom's teaching them valuable lessons." "Valuable?" Sophia scoffed. "What's valuable about grubbing in the dirt?" "We live in Willow Creek Estates, Marcus. Do you know what people say when they find out your mother is some kind of peasant farmer?" If only she knew that every inch of her precious Willow Creek Estates had once been part of my family's farmland. That every decision about the development, from the artificial lake to the carefully planned green spaces, had come from my vision. "Mom's not a peasant," Marcus said. "She's living in that old farmhouse while we're surrounded by luxury," Sophia cut in. "It's embarrassing. Why won't she sell this eyesore and move somewhere more appropriate?" I smiled slightly, remembering the multiple offers I'd received through various shell companies, offers Sophia herself had encouraged, never knowing she was actually negotiating with her mother-in-law. "The kids," Sophia suddenly shrieked. "They're eating something straight from the ground." Lucas, Hema, stopped at this instant. The children froze, fresh strawberries halfway to their mouths. I stepped out from behind my tomato plants. "These are organic strawberries, Sophia. Probably the same ones you pay $15 a basket for at that fancy market you love." "Mrs. Chen," she said stiffly, using my maiden name rather than acknowledging our family connection. "The children need to go home now. We have a country club luncheon." "But Grandma was going to show us how honey is made," Lucas protested. "Yeah, and I want to help with the baby goats," Emma added. Sophia's perfectly maintained features twisted in horror. "Goats? Absolutely not. Marcus, get them in the car." I watched as my son hesitated, torn between his wife's demands and his children's disappointed faces. "Actually," I said mildly, "these goats are quite special. Prize-winning lineage, rather like those artisanal cheeses you serve at your dinner parties." "I serve imported French cheese, not some backyard farm animal's milk," she sniffed. If only she knew that her favorite imported cheese came from my dairy operation 2 counties over. "Mom," Marcus started, but his phone buzzed. "It's the office. Something about the new development contract." "Take it," I said. "The children can stay with me if you need to work." "They most certainly cannot," Sophia declared. "I have plans for them, proper activities. Like that junior golf lesson they hate." I asked quietly. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Better than playing in dirt and hanging around with farm animals." "Really, Marcus, I don't know why you allow this. We live in the most exclusive subdivision in the state. Your mother's lifestyle. It's beneath us." I looked at my grandchildren's crestfallen faces, then at the precision-planned luxury homes beyond my fence. Homes I designed to preserve as much of the original farmland as possible. Homes that Sophia thought made her superior to the simple farmer next door. "Beneath you?" I repeated softly. Interesting perspective. "Yes, well, someone in his family has to maintain standards," she said, reaching for the children. "Come along, we're leaving." "But Grandma's honey," Lucas whined. "And the baby goats?" Emma added tearfully. "Now," Sophia commanded, "and we won't be back. This place isn't suitable for children of our standing." As she marched them toward her luxury SUV, I saw Emma drop something. After they'd driven away, I picked it up, a business card from the country club. On the back, Emma had drawn a little farm with happy faces. My phone buzzed with a message from my lawyer. "Development board meeting tomorrow. Time to review the Willow Creek Estate's ownership structure." I looked at my farmhouse, deliberately kept simple while I poured millions into sustainable agriculture and responsible development. At the luxury homes beyond my fence, where people like Sophia measured worth by square footage rather than character. "Yes," I typed back. "I think it's time for some changes in the neighborhood." That evening, as I reviewed the property documents in my study, a room Sophia had never seen, with its wall of agricultural and architectural awards. Marcus stopped by. "Mom, I'm sorry about today, Sophia. She just doesn't understand." "Doesn't understand what?" I asked. "That food doesn't magically appear in stores. That children might learn more from growing things than from country club etiquette." He had the grace to look ashamed. "She means well. She just wants the best for the kids. And you think the best is keeping them from understanding where they come from. What this land was before it became her precious subdivision. You know how she is about appearances." "Yes," I said, looking at tomorrow's agenda. "I know exactly how she is about appearances. And maybe it's time she learned about reality." I turned to my property maps where Willow Creek Estates was outlined in red, all of it still, technically, part of my farm. Sometimes I thought the best lessons about genuine worth come from the very soil you're trying to rise above. The next morning, I traded my garden clothes for a tailored suit that had been hanging in my study closet. As I drove past Sophia's house in my rarely used Mercedes, I saw her watching from her window, confusion evident on her face. The development board meeting was scheduled at the Willow Creek Estates clubhouse, a building I'd specifically designed to incorporate elements of the original barn that once stood there. Sophia was there early, presiding over her self-appointed social committee. "Mrs. Chen?" She blinked rapidly at my appearance. "Why are you? This is a private meeting." "Oh, I know." I smiled, taking my seat at the head of the table. "But this is for property owners and board members only," she protested, smoothing her designer dress nervously. "Exactly." I opened my briefcase just as Marcus rushed in. "Mom, what's going on?" "Please, everyone take your seats," my lawyer, Janet, announced. "Mrs. Chen has some important matters to discuss." "The farmer?" someone whispered. I pulled out the original property deeds, development plans, and current ownership documents. "Actually, I'm the developer and primary owner of Willow Creek Estates. Have been since I transformed my family's farm into this community." The room erupted in murmurs. Sophia's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. "That's impossible," she stammered. "This development was created by Chen Agricultural Developments. My company," I confirmed. "Named after my father, who taught me both farming and business." I gestured to the wall behind me where a painting of the original farmhouse hung. "That's where I grew up, learned to respect the land, and eventually designed this entire community." Marcus slumped in his chair. "Mom, why didn't you ever tell me?" "Would it have mattered?" I asked quietly. "Would it have stopped you and Sophia from treating the farm like something shameful?" Sophia's hands trembled as she reached for the documents. But you're just a farmer." "I'm a farmer who holds degrees in agricultural science and urban development," I corrected. "Who built this community to demonstrate that luxury living and environmental responsibility can coexist." I displayed the community plans on the screen, showing how each house, including Sophia's, had been positioned to preserve ancient trees and natural watersheds. "Your organic markets, my produce. Your farm-to-table restaurants, my supply chain. That imported cheese you serve, my dairy farm." I paused, letting it sink in. "Even your precious country club was designed to incorporate sustainable farming practices in its landscaping. But you live in that old house. Work in the dirt." Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. "Because I choose to," I said firmly. "Because someone needs to teach the next generation that real value doesn't come from marble countertops and social status." Janet distributed new documents to the board members. "Mrs. Chen has some proposals for the community's next phase, including," I added, looking directly at Sophia, "converting that empty lot you've been complaining about into a community teaching garden." "A garden?" she squeaked. "But that's where we were planning to build the new tennis courts." The residents' survey showed more interest in learning sustainable farming practices, I noted, particularly among the children. Marcus leaned forward. "Is that why Emma and Lucas love the farm so much? They're actually learning something valuable, more valuable than country club etiquette?" I asked pointedly. "Yes." Sophia straightened her spine. "Fine, you want everything. But our position in the community is exactly what you make of it," I interrupted. "Not through your address or your social committees, but through your contributions to the community's real values." I pulled up photos of the children working in my garden. "Your children understand this. They see the magic in growing things, in understanding where food comes from, in connecting with the land." They do love the farm, Marcus admitted. Come home talking about plants and animals, and honey production, and sustainable farming, I added. All those things you thought were beneath them. Sophia's perfect posture finally crumbled. I just wanted them to have the best. The best isn't always the most expensive, I said gently. Sometimes it's the lessons learned with dirty hands and happy hearts. The board members nodded, many glancing at their own manicured lawns with new eyes. So what now? Marcus asked. Now, I smiled. We're going to show everyone that true luxury isn't about shutting nature out. It's about learning to live in harmony with it. I unveiled the plans for the teaching garden, complete with areas for children's programs and community education. And me? Sophia asked quietly. That depends, I replied. Are you ready to learn that real status comes from what you contribute, not what you own? She looked at the photos of her children, their faces bright with discovery as they learned about life from their supposedly simple farmer grandmother. The children, she said slowly, they've been asking for their own garden plot. Yes, I nodded. Right next to where we're putting in the new beehives. Beehives? She paled slightly, then straightened. Well, I suppose I should learn about honey production if I'm going to help them. The transformation of both Willow Creek Estates and my family over the next 6 months surprised everyone, especially those who had witnessed Sophia's previous reign of social superiority. Initially, Sophia retreated into her mansion, emerging only to spread stories about embracing sustainable living. But when her former social circles started praising her children's knowledge of organic gardening, she found herself facing an unfamiliar sensation, genuine accomplishment. The turning point came through, of all things, a failed garden party. I need help, she called one evening, her voice missing its usual pride. The organic catering service canceled, and I have 40 guests coming. Emma says you could teach me to prepare something from the garden. I could have let her panic. Part of me wanted to. Instead, I said, get your apron ready. It's time you learned where real gourmet food comes from. The Sophia who met me in her designer kitchen was barely recognizable. Her silk blouse had been replaced by a practical cotton shirt. Her perfect nails were garden-stained, and her eyes held something I'd never seen before, eagerness to learn. Emma, who had inherited my love for growing things, watched as I taught her mother how to prepare fresh vegetables. You have to understand the ingredients, I explained, showing Sophia how to select perfectly ripe tomatoes. Just like you need to understand people before judging their worth. The irony of my words wasn't lost on anyone. What followed was what Marcus called the Great Garden Revolution. The woman who once wouldn't touch soil now spent weekends teaching other residents' children about organic farming. Mom actually led the garden club meeting today, Emma told me proudly. She didn't even mind getting dirt on her designer jeans. Marcus, showing more growth than I'd expected, started implementing green initiatives throughout the community. He worked alongside the maintenance crew, learning about sustainable landscaping. One day, I overheard him tell Sophia, "Why do we waste so much time pretending to be above all this?" Sophia set down her gardening tools, hands trembling. Because we thought luxury meant separation from nature, she admitted softly. We were so busy trying to look sophisticated that we never learned true refinement. Like how we treated Mom's farm? Yes, she whispered. Your mother created something beautiful while we looked down on her methods. We were too blind to see that real elegance can have dirt under its nails. The real breakthrough came during our first community harvest festival. A young resident presented dishes made entirely from their family's garden plot. The old Sophia would have dismissed it as common. The new Sophia spent hours sharing recipes and gardening tips. This is real community, she said afterward. Not pretending to be exclusive, but sharing knowledge and growth. Later that evening, as we cleaned up the festival area, Sophia lingered. I've been thinking, she said quietly, about the country club landscaping. Oh, yes. We should convert it into an educational garden space. If you'll help design it. I studied her face, looking for any trace of her old social climbing self. I found none. That's a wonderful idea, I said carefully. But it would mean giving up your precious formal gardens. Gardens should grow more than appearances, she replied, watching Emma teach other children about composting. I just wish I'd learned that sooner. Marcus, who had been pretending not to listen, joined us. For the first time ever, he looked at his childhood home with genuine appreciation. Will you help us? Sophia asked. To make this community what it should be. Better, I smiled. We'll all do it together, and learn plenty along the way. I looked at them both uncertainly. If you're ready for that? They nodded, watching years of artificial barriers dissolve like morning dew on guarded leaves. As we walked home that night, Emma pointed to a butterfly landing on an organic rose bush. Look, sometimes the most beautiful gardens are the ones everyone helps grow. Yes, I agreed, watching Sophia patiently explain companion planting to a neighbor. And sometimes the best communities are the ones that remember their roots. The sunset painted the mansion roofs in golden light, but the warmth of transformation came from the earth beneath our feet. In the end, it wasn't about property values, social status, or even luxury living. It was about learning that true worth isn't measured by the height of your walls, but by the depth of your roots. As Emma often says now, the best homes aren't built with money. They're grown with love, learning, and maybe a few garden tools. And sometimes, the greatest legacy isn't the property you develop, but the values you plant in those who live there.